All right, everyone, ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling creativity.
Sounds fun.
We're looking at excerpts from this book. It's called Creativity is Controlled Chaos.
Okay.
And it basically asks, is creativity truly just pure freedom? Or is there like a structure to it?
I like that, because it does seem like, some people just have that magic touch, right? Like they were born with it.
Yeah, but this book is saying, hold on, maybe it's not all just random bursts of brilliance.
Right. There's got to be something more.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to dig into.
I'm intrigued already. Where do we start?
Let's start with the chaos part of the equation.
All right, chaos.
This book, it takes us right into the brain to those billions of neurons we have.
Oh boy, here we go, neuroscience.
Just a little bit, but it's interesting stuff, I promise. They're saying that all those neurons firing in unpredictable ways, that's actually the raw material for creativity.
So it's like our brains are kind of chaotic by design.
In a way, yeah. It's like this inherent randomness, the spark that gets things going.
Okay, but why would our brains have evolved to be so random? Wouldn't it be more efficient if everything was, neatly organized?
Well, think about our ancestors. Imagine they're suddenly face-to-face with, like, a saber-toothed tiger.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, not a good situation. They couldn't afford to sit there and carefully analyze the best escape route.
They had to think fast.
Exactly. They needed to come up with solutions on the spot.
So this chaos, this randomness in the brain, it was actually a survival advantage.
It allowed them to adapt quickly, to improvise in the face of danger.
It's like our brains were wired for creative problem solving.
And that wiring, it's still with us today. We're all walking around with these brains that are constantly generating these little sparks, these random bursts of activity.
Okay, so we've got all these sparks flying around, but how do we actually harness that energy, turn those sparks into something, tangible? Like, how do we go from random brain activity to writing a song or designing a building?
Well, that's where the control part of the equation comes in. And that's where the prefrontal cortex steps onto the stage.
Prefrontal cortex?
Yeah, that's like the brain's executive control center. It's the part that helps us plan, organize, make decisions.
So it's like a conductor, taking all those chaotic sparks and shaping them into something beautiful.
A beautiful analogy. It's this constant interplay, a dance between chaos and control.
Okay, I'm getting the picture. Chaos provides the raw material, the sparks of inspiration, and then control comes in, shapes those sparks into something meaningful.
Exactly. It's this delicate balance. But hold on, because there's another twist. This book, it actually argues that constraints, limitations, can actually boost creativity.
Wait a minute, how can that be? Wouldn't limitations make you less creative?
It seems counterintuitive, I know. But think about it. Some of the most iconic works of art, music, literature, they were created under really strict constraints.
I never thought of it that way. Can you give an example?
Sure. Like, imagine Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling. The physical space, the time constraints, the materials available.
Yeah, he had all sorts of limitations.
Exactly. And yet he created a masterpiece.
So maybe limitations force us to think outside the box, to find creative solutions within those boundaries.
Precisely. It's like that old saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
But in this case, it's more like constraint is the mother of creativity.
Love that. It's like the tighter the space, the more pressure there is to create something brilliant. Like, how diamonds need intense pressure to even exist.
Ooh, that's a great analogy. Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together. We've got chaos, control, and then these constraints that actually help push us further.
And that brings us to a question I've been wondering about. What about those aha moments? Those moments when everything just clicks?
Yeah, those are the best.
What's happening in the brain when we experience those sudden bursts of insight?
Well, get ready for a little more neuroscience, because this book delves into something called the brain's reward system.
Oh, I love this stuff. Tell me more.
Okay, so it turns out that our brains, they love connecting the dots. Every time we make a new connection, every time we have a new insight, our brain releases dopamine.
Dopamine. That's the feel-good chemical.
That's one. So basically, our brains are rewarding us for being creative.
That's amazing. So it's like a positive feedback loop. The more we create, the more those aha moments we experience, the more our brain rewards us, and the more we want to keep creating.
Exactly. It's what makes those creative pursuits so addictive.
This is fascinating. But what about those times when we get stuck? When those aha moments seem miles away? what's happening in our brains when we hit that creative wall.
Welcome back. We're in the thick of it now, exploring this amazing connection between chaos and control in the creative process.
I know. And I've been thinking about those aha moments, those bursts of insight, those dopamine hits.
Yeah.
Is there a way, do you think, to hack the system? Can we make those happen more often?
Well, that's what I love about this book. It doesn't just describe the problem, it offers solutions. And it suggests that we're not, totally at the mercy of random inspiration.
Okay, good. Because I'm all about taking control.
Right. And one of the keys, it says, is to embrace the unfamiliar. Expose yourself to new experiences.
So it's about getting out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Because think about it. If you're always doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, your brain's just firing the same old neural pathways. Nothing new is happening.
No, but if you try something different,
you create new connections.
and those new connections are where the creativity comes from.
It's like if you're always walking the same path, you only see the same scenery.
Yeah.
But if you take a detour, explore a new part of the forest, who knows what you might find?
So it's like literally feeding your brain new information.
That's it. And that's why so many creative people talk about the importance of travel. Immersing yourself in a different culture, trying new foods, listening to different kinds of music.
It's all about exposing your brain to new input.
Right. And the more diverse that input is, the richer your creative output will be.
Okay, so maybe I need to finally take that pottery class I've been thinking about.
There you go. Or maybe learn a new language.
Or travel to, Iceland. I've always wanted to go there.
Perfect. Anything that gets those neurons firing in new and exciting ways.
Okay, embracing the unfamiliar, check. What else?
Well, this might sound a little crazy, but the book also talks about the power of constraints.
Wait, constraints. I thought we already talked about those.
We did, but this is a little different. It's not just about accepting the limitations that are already there.
It's about creating your own.
Exactly.
I don't get it. Why would I want to limit myself on purpose?
Because sometimes having too many options can be paralyzing. It's like if you have an unlimited budget, you might end up overthinking every decision and never actually build the house.
Oh, I see. So it's about giving yourself a framework to work within.
Exactly. And within those boundaries, your creativity can really flourish.
So if you're writing a song, you could say, okay, I'm only going to use these 4 chords.
Right. Or if you're writing a story, you could challenge yourself to write it in exactly 100 words.
Huh. That's actually pretty clever.
It forces you to be more resourceful, to make every word count.
Okay, I like this idea. It's instead of feeling overwhelmed by all the possibilities, you create your own little sandbox to play in.
Exactly. And sometimes those self-imposed constraints can lead to the most unexpected and innovative results.
So embrace the unfamiliar, create constraints. Any other tips for boosting creativity?
Well, there is one more thing, but we'll save that for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, because I'm really curious now. I feel like I'm already starting to see my own creative process in a whole new light.
That's great to hear. And in the next part, we'll delve into what to do when you're feeling stuck. When those creative juices just aren't flowing.
Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone. We've been unpacking all this cool stuff about creativity, how it's this, blend of chaos and control.
Yeah, it's been fascinating, hasn't it?
Totally. But, what about those times when, everything just stops? You're staring at a blank page, nothing's coming.
Oh, yeah, the dreaded creative block.
Exactly. What does the book say about those?
Well, it doesn't sugarcoat it. It acknowledges that those blocks are real and every creative person faces them.
Oh, good. So it's not just me then?
Not at all. It's a universal experience, and the book digs into the 2 main reasons why these blocks happen.
Okay, lay it on me. Why do we get stuck?
Well, the first culprit is our friend, the prefrontal cortex. Remember, it's all about control, planning, order.
So too much control can actually block creativity.
Sometimes, yeah. If we're hyper-focused on getting everything perfect, on meeting some, imaginary standard, it can stifle the flow of ideas.
It's like we're editing ourselves before we even start creating.
Exactly. And that kind of self-criticism can be a real killer.
I totally get that. I've definitely been there. But could the opposite be a problem too? Too much chaos, not enough control.
Absolutely. If our minds are just overflowing with ideas, but we don't have a framework for organizing them, it can feel super overwhelming.
It's like having all these puzzle pieces, but no picture to guide you.
Exactly. So as we've been talking about, the key is balance. Finding that sweet spot between chaos and control.
Okay, but how do we find that balance when we're, in the middle of a block.
Yeah.
Any practical tips from the book?
It gives some great advice. And one of the most important things it emphasizes is self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah, like being kind to yourself. When we're struggling creatively, it's easy to get down on ourselves, to start beating ourselves up.
Makes total sense.
But that just makes the block worse. So instead of judging ourselves, the book encourages us to be understanding, to treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend.
So acknowledge the block, but don't be hard on yourself about it.
Exactly. Give yourself permission to be in that messy, uncertain space.
Okay, so self-compassion is key. What else?
From there, we can start experimenting.
Experimenting. So just try stuff, even if it seems random.
Exactly. Sometimes the best way to get unstuck is to just shake things up, to break out of those familiar patterns.
So try a new technique, use different materials, whatever.
Exactly. Remember, creativity loves novelty.
It's like we need to remind ourselves that it's okay to play, to be curious, to make mistakes.
And speaking of mistakes, the book also talks about embracing imperfection.
Yeah, the fear of not being perfect can really hold you back.
Totally. But the book reminds us that creativity isn't about achieving some flawless ideal. It's about expressing yourself authentically.
So it's okay if it's a little messy, a little rough around the edges.
Exactly. The imperfections are what make it unique. And finally, the book encourages us to reconnect with our why.
Our why.
Yeah, like why do we create in the first place? What brings us joy? What do we want to express?
Oh, I get it. It's about remembering that deeper sense of purpose.
Exactly. Because when we connect with our why, it can rekindle that creative spark.
Wow. This whole conversation has been so insightful. It's like we've taken a journey through the creative mind.
It's amazing how much power we have over our own creative process, isn't it?
It really is. And to all our listeners out there, remember, creativity isn't some magical talent that some people have and others don't. It's within all of us, waiting to be explored. So go out there, embrace your chaos, and see what you can create.
Couldn't have said it better myself.